This Singapore Grand Prix 2024 betting picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACE SGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome into another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I'm Rod Villagomez. He's Cody Zeeb. If you're watching on YouTube, apologies. Apparently my fingers are not working on clicking buttons, but you get to see every ad that we had for about at least a second apiece. But yeah, anyways, Cody, back-to-back weeks of F1 racing. How did we get so lucky?
I think I need an off week to digest what happened to my bets last week still, Rod. Wow. Had a great week, cashed a bunch of bets, but could have cashed more bets until the last lap, but I wouldn't have cashed other bets if those bets would have cashed. I still don't know how to feel.
It is a mixed bag of emotions. And honestly, I'm sorry. I whiffed 100% on just the overall part of it. Didn't whiff on who would be fastest in practice one, but who would have thought that that was the only part of the week in which Red Bull would actually be fast? I mean, we thought we thought Sergio Perez.
But Perez was fast, and he was about to cash an 8-1 podium until 2 laps to go, and then they got together, and then Bierman points cashed instead, and Oscar won. So it was a good weekend, and we cashed stuff, but we could have cashed. The Perez deal was looking so good, and we were going to cash the top 4. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, first of all, the podium was going to catch. I was like, great. And then when Sainz is getting around him, you're like, okay, we still got the top 4. It's good. It's fine. Still going to catch that. And then they wreck, and it's like, wait a minute. Bierman comes into the top 10, and I'm like, wait, I like that one. It was just, man, what a fucking race, though, right? I just want to say, F1 is delivering right now for the lull that we went through, for how sort of boring it was with Max just kicking everybody's ass. And we talked about it at the time, right? Sort of recognize the greatness that you're seeing, because this isn't going to last forever. It's not going to be that way. And now you have no fucking idea who it's going to be any given week. Is it going to be Lando Norris? No, he has to start fucking 17th or whatever. Still finished 4th somehow. I don't even know. I still don't know how he got to 4th place. At the end of the day, I know how he got those last 2 spots, but still, it's just crazy. And then Max just looks slow, but Checho had some speed when Max didn't, which is something you don't normally see, and maybe that's a street course aspect of it. And then Ferrari obviously has their speed, and Oscar, oh, buddy, I'm already waiting to place that 2025 F1 champion bet on Oscar Piastri. Absolutely love that kid, and he just continues to show how fucking great he is. And George Russell sneaks onto the podium just kind of after a quiet day. So we've got, man, yes, just great. Some young kids that, we talked about Bierman already, but you're going to talk about the other guy. He got a points finish, and just absolutely great.
We asked for this. This is what we asked for all those weeks ago. This is why we kind of let the show go dormant, because it wasn't like this. And then once we realized, well, we were a week too early in going dormant, that we decided that, yeah, this is what we needed. This is the type of racing that we need to put on this kind of a show, because like Cody said, it just got boring every week to get on and say, well, Max is going to win, and let's find a way to bet on somebody else to do something else other than win this race. And we'll find a way to get in on Max. By the way,
now it feels like betting on NASCAR. It feels like betting on IndyCar. You don't know who's going to win. There's any number of drivers who could win, any number of drivers who could podium, and even farther back, any number of drivers who could get in the points. It's F1 is at peak level right now. Absolutely love it. And I have a feeling it's not going to stay this way very long, and the team's going to ease ahead, but it'd be really nice, especially with the big changes coming in 2026. Like, if we can carry this to the rest of the season and into next year and have this all season before everybody gets put on a different playing field in 26, we could be in for a good season and a half of F1 here before then. It should be really great, because it should be somewhat like the next gen car in NASCAR, where it's going to really even out what the playing field looks like as we switch to all this hybrid stuff and whatnot. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm so looking forward to the Netflix show this off season, because the storylines throughout this year and all the other stuff going on with, all the people who have left Red Bull and all the places they're going, and Lewis obviously leaving, and all the different driver changes we've had. The grid's going to look so different next year. Oh man, F1's in a great place right now, Rod.
Listen, I love it, because it just, like you said, each and every week just offers us so much to look forward to. And we did this week, and we're going to do it again this coming week. So yeah, we'll break down the Singapore Grand Prix, which is coming up next. But I want to tell you, the war against corporate gambling is heating up, and SGPN needs you to do your part. Let me be the Uncle Sam of this one. We need you to do your part against corporate gambling. Take a couple seconds. Listen, all it takes is literally about 15 seconds to type up a review to rate and review this show, this particular F1 gambling podcast. And more importantly, really just tell a friend. I mean, reviews are great. Reviews get us in the rankings and all that other good stuff, which, by the way, shout out to the mothership, 40th place right now on the charts. May not seem like a lot, but when you look at the shows around them, they're beating some pretty established shows, and they're climbing that chart, beating more established shows. So keep telling your friends about the Sports Gambling Podcast, and of course, the F1 Gambling Podcast. Word of mouth, literally the heartbeat of SGPN. We don't pour our dollars into advertising here on the SGPN to try to make our shows better known to everybody. We just pour it into the quality of the content and let it all speak for itself. So you guys telling your friends is really what drives the train and keeps us going. So make sure to do that and have some fun with us and rate and review if you would please do that. So Cody, the Singapore Grand Prix, this track, I think we had trouble trying to figure out what it looked like last year. Honestly, I still can't figure out what it looks like. Do you have any clue on what this looks like?
I sort of see like a foot with a leg. You could even get like the thigh in there. So it's like a leg that's sitting down, I guess, if you kind of tilt your head a little bit this way. See how like where the speed trap is the bottom of the foot, and then it's a leg, and then it goes up into the thigh. I mean, that's really all I got for you, Rod. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. This is a very oddly, these street circuits are always like, because you're obviously racing through the streets, hence the street circuit thing. So it's not like a designed racetrack, right? And so it's a pretty funny looking shapes. I just love how they like the 2 points kind of meet there in I can't see anything. 8 and 14, 8 and 14, but yeah, I'm going with the leg, foot, thigh. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, I'll go with that. If it's like a broken knee, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, the knee's a little indented, yeah, but
the knee looks like it needs a little work. You might need to actually go.
Yeah, we all have bad knees, Rod. It happens.
At this point, yes, sir, we do. All right, 62 laps around this 4.94 kilometer track, so just under a 5K, so just under 3 miles for 306.143. Lap record here, 2023. Lewis Hamilton ran one lap in 1 minute, 35 seconds, 0.867. Count them, three DRS detection zones. The first of which comes between turns 4 and 5. And then you get a little bit of help down 12 and 13. And then 17 and 18 is where you finish it off before you go down 19 all the way to the straightaway to turn 1. Start finish line. This is one, Cody, in which Max Verstappen has never won a race on this track. Isn't that not wild to think about? And all that we've been to, Max Verstappen has never won a race here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a little wild now. You got to keep in mind there was no Grand Prix in 2020 or 2021 due to the pandemic. So that takes out 2 of his, pretty dominant years to where, but over the last 2 years, you think like, well, you would for sure think he won every race last year, didn't he? So yeah, did not win this one and hasn't won either one. And I gotta say, it doesn't look too good for him this weekend.
I'm thinking it doesn't look at all good for Max this weekend. I tried to call my shot last week. I tried to thought, hey, listen, man, Max is going to come back. He's got to do something. I know street circuits are not necessarily his thing, but I figure if the rest of the pack is catching up to him, then he's going to take notice and try to put his foot on the gas a little more. But Cody, that car is not what it was, first and foremost. That Red Bull car of his was not up to snuff. And he looks shook. Like, he just looks and doesn't sound as confident as he used to be when he was kicking everyone's ass. Now he's back in the pack, and I think people are starting to realize, yeah, this kid's not the bully anymore. We've got the upper hand, and we're gonna take full advantage of that. McLaren now, passing Red Bull, so they're already taking the lead. So what's going on with Red Bull? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I mean, 9-1 for Max Verstappen to win this race, Rod. It's just like, if you would have said that coming into the season, we were talking last week in the Discord about, he's like, what, 7-1? And I was like, wow, what a big number. You're never going to see this. Like, now he's 9-1, and it's pretty deserved. Like, maybe he shouldn't even be that low of a number, honestly. Like, if you kind of look at what he's done lately for you, and obviously it's still Max Verstappen, and he's still done things. And if he comes out and kicks everybody's ass, it would be a little shocking based on how they're running, but not in a general sense, right? We know that he's one of the best drivers in the entire world right now, and he is Max Verstappen. But yeah, they're definitely struggling, and it's amazing how quick things have turned. Of course, you mentioned McLaren has officially taken over the constructors title. I'd imagine they're fairly heavy favorites to win that at this point. I was trying to pull those up just real quick. Of course. Oh yeah, here it is. Constructors Championship to win outright. Minus 1,000. So, just a little bit of a heavy favorite there. But it's gonna be pretty tough, I think, to catch them at this point. They took a 20-point lead already, just like that. And honestly, Ferrari is kind of nipping on Red Bull's heels pretty quickly as well if Red Bull doesn't figure their shit out. And Lando, it's an outside chance. Maybe just maybe he can get it done. I know that over in the Discord, our buddy Preston he had one of those deals where you like enter where people finish in each Grand Prix and figure out how many points they get, and he's like, I found the path. Here's how you. It's the meme with what is that from?
Always Sunny Philadelphia.
Yeah, Always Sunny Philadelphia, where he's got all the strings and everything. He's like, this is how Lando wins it. So shout out to Preston. I know he's listening, and hey, maybe he gets it done.
Speaking of Lando, he is plus 175 to win this race, looking a lot more like Max Verstappen numbers as he starts to assert his dominance in this sport. So, all right, listen, I think it's time to set up our bets for this Singapore Grand Prix. Going to have some fun. There was some stuff I liked actually this week. There was a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. It was really easy to fill out the card this week, I think.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. When we let the show kind of go dark, it was getting tough because we were going back to the same things. And this time we actually can open up a few more pages of the book and let it kind of speak through. So we'll get to that in just a second. But first, let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy Pick'em is always adding to their awesome menu. And now they even have first TD projections on top of NASCAR, on top of F1, on top of all the stuff that you've come to know and love. There's a ton of ways to win too, not just the racing aspect of it, but NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, and more. Lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts and no sweat entries. Hey, if you've been following along the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well, we've been giving some great Underdog Fantasy picks. We're going to continue to do that. We'll toss in some F1 too this week after practice and qualifying. We'll get you all set up for that. You can also use specials and boosts now on all flexed entries. So sign up in the meantime, though, with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN.
Oops, knocking shit over here.
I know, dude. You're like totally throwing it off. Fine.
Well,
fine.
I was trying. I was trying what I was doing, Rod, to be for you being honest with you here. I've got my notebook with my notes like I usually have. And I was trying to look back quickly and find my notes from last week because I wanted to reference something in there. And then I realized I had a new notebook. And so the other notebook was over here. So I reached over, knocked it off. But anyways, to the point of
it's getting
why
serious when Cody has got another notebook already. Look,
I've got both notebooks out.
oh my God.
Much like Phil over on Full Tank with Phil, I keep all the I have a whole box full of notebooks here, Rod. So I can go back and reference it. It's not easy to find what I'm looking for if I ever want to go back through. But sometimes I like to just grab a random one and pull it open and be like, what did I think of this race? And sometimes I don't write down what race it is. So then I'm trying to figure out which race was this, which is great. But anyways, moving on. The reason I wanted to go back to my old notebook, Rod, is I wanted to look at my notes for Sergio Perez last week because I fucking nailed everything about it. I was absolutely right until the last lap when he and Sainz got tangled up. I still don't know whose fault that was. I'm going to blame Sainz since I had money on Checho, but it doesn't matter. Either way.
This is the classic example of who shot first, Han or Greedo. No one's going to own up to it. It's just
they even said it was just a racing incident. They're not going to penalize either one. Who knows? So I'm going to blame Sainz anyways, but doesn't matter. Anyways, to the point of Checho. First of all, Checo's where I'm going with these bets, Rod. Top 6 over on DraftKings, -110. Got rid of the top 4 this week. What's up with that layer, Den? Hit me up. Tell me what the deal is. I like that top 4 bet last week. I almost cashed it, but that's all right. -110 for a top 6 is an absolutely great number for Perez. I love that. I'm also going to take his podium finish at 12-1 because we just saw it last week, Rod. Go look at what we just saw in the race last week. We saw everything I talked about last week, and then go back to last week's show, find out what I said about Checho. And that's what I'm going to say again today because it's all the same things, right? He's the street course king for a reason. Despite how much Max struggled last week, we saw it from Perez early in the week. We saw it all week, and he all through the weekend until the very last lap when, of course, that incident happened. But struggled at Canada and Monaco. Talked about that. That was that rough patch, right? 4th at Miami, though. 5th at Australia. 2nd at Saudi Arabia. 3rd or 4th last week. Probably going to finish 4th. But after Sainz got around him, maybe should have just held on to 4th and cashed the top 4 for us, but that's okay. So at least we had the backdoor points finish out of Beerman that saved the day. He was very good at that track previously, right? Last week at Baku, like we talked about, he'd won there before. And then, you go back to last year where he won at Baku, he won at Saudi, he was 3rd at Las Vegas. Those are all great finishes. He'd been good consistently at Baku. Now you come here, Rod. And again, he's 8th place last year, not the best of all years for him, but he did win this race in 2022. It's a street race. Everything that I said last week still applies this week. We're still getting pretty good numbers because the result ended up not being there last week like it should have been, right? But we saw the Checho that we want to see on a street course last week. That gives me enough faith to take both of these bets. So Checho Perez, Sergio Perez, for those of you who don't know, top 6 finish at -110. Podium finish 12-1, both over on DraftKings there.
So, and for me, what I loved the most about last week, though, is that we saw 3 cars that were within just striking distance of each other until, of course, Piastri checked out after the incident. But he was checking out even before Perez and Sainz were kind of battling it out. So
yeah, but McLaren was kind of hanging with them for a while. Like you had at one point there were 4 different cars that, it was kind of a 4-way battle for that lead in a way. Like, obviously not all right there at the lead, but all throw a blanket over them, right? And they were all right there in the mix.
Yeah, there was at one point where they were all kind of in DRS range of each other. They almost started to DRS train at the front, which you very rarely see. But yeah, that was just entertaining all the way around. I'm with you on Checho. When I opened the dock, Cody already.
I claimed everything Checho. Sorry.
Checho was already there, so I didn't have.
After getting so fucking close last week, not gonna miss it this week. I'll tell you that.
I know, and I love that podium at 12-1. That's insane.
Yeah, he was a lap away from being on the podium last week.
Not even a lap. Less than a lap.
Half a lap. Yeah, exactly. He was that close to being on the podium, and we're still 12-1 when we just saw last week what he's capable of doing at a track where he's done it before on a street circuit, which is the entire handicapping behind him, basically. So, yeah, I think it's a great number.
Indeed. All right. I'm going to go a little deeper into the bag, and I'm going to take Lewis Hamilton as a podium finisher on this track. There was a string there between Spain and between the Spanish Grand Prix and pretty much the end of Spa. where he was running podium and or really close to the podium. Canada too, if you want to go back. 4th place at Canada, 3rd place at Spain, and then you had a 4th place in Austria, 1 in the British Grand Prix, and then 3rd got the podium at the Hungarian Grand Prix, finished 1st at Spa. It's been 3 rough weeks for Lewis Hamilton, 8th, 5th, and 9th, but in that span, you got to look at the fact that he actually had to start 14th in the Dutch Grand Prix, missed the first didn't he get out of qualifying 1? That was, or qualifying 2 rather. That's hard for him to not get out of Q2. But 5th place again at Monza, and then 9th place last week, but he started 19th, way back in the grid. Makes me wonder what would have happened if he would have. George Russell just got himself onto the podium last week. Granted, it was because of what happened in front of him, but he was still running a race. This race in particular, and we'll get into the reasoning behind this, I don't think this race is going to stay completely green the whole time. We're going to see some cars retire out of this one. So if Hamilton can either qualify up front and run the right strategy, I think a podium is within his reach. Or if he can stay out of the fray close enough to the front to where he can benefit like his teammate did last week, then I think a podium finish is good for him. This track in particular, though, 7 podium finishes in 14 starts. He's finished on the podium half of the time, including 4 wins overall. His last race here was in 2013, a 3rd place finish there. 9th and 4th, okay, but he won in 2018, won in 2017, podium finish in 2016, and then won again in 2014. So, I mean, again, we've seen Lewis Hamilton have some struggles this season altogether, but by and large, again, he's a good enough driver to where if he can stay out of trouble, I think a podium finish on a track that he's been pretty good at over the course of his history, especially at 4-1, that's a crazy number. Get that at BetUS, by the way. That's BetUS special, 4-1 for Lewis Hamilton on the podium this week.
Yeah, BetUS killing it here lately, Rod. They've got some really good numbers. So if you're not signed up with them, again, they got that crypto deal. You can use it in a lot of places. It's a good deal. So make sure you use our promo link, I guess it is, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS, I think is how you get there. But great odds from them. And no argument from me. I'm not going to argue on the Lewis bet. You know how much I love Lewis and betting on him. And I think you made some great points there, Rob.
Beautiful stuff. All right, let's keep going.
Speaking of BetUS, they've got this next one at a great number. Carlos Sainz finished on the podium plus 120. He was slightly my enemy last week, maybe-ish. I'm still trying to decide on that with the wreck at the end with Checho. But we saw it last week. Had the ability to finish on the podium, right? So I'm going to use that right away again because he was right there, and he was in position to get on the podium if they end up not getting together there. Roddy won this race last year, so that's a pretty good sign there, right? It was the middle of the max dominance. He's winning every race. I think he had already won the championship by now. Carlos Sainz comes out, wins this race back in 2022, finished on the podium here as well. Again, no 21 race to look at, no 20 race to look at. So these are really the races we have to compare to is just the last two seasons. Right there in the mix last week, like I said, only 2 races this entire season, Rod. 2 races. Carlos Sainz has finished outside of the top 6. This is much like Lewis Hamilton's season last year, it was Russell last year, I think, just top 6 every single week, which that means he's going to be in the mix for a podium. If he can be in the top 6 with the way that things are right now, he's going to be there week in and week out. We see a little bit of variance in some of these guys, right? Sometimes Checho can't make it past Q1, or Lando didn't do it last week, and sometimes Max has a bad week, but Sainz is just getting in the top 6 each and every single week. Only on 2 occasions is he not the entire season. He missed 1 race, of course, with the appendectomy, but that doesn't count. So it's been a really good, strong season from Sainz. Again, we know he's moving on at the end of the year, but he still, last week, showed us he can get on the podium. He's good at these street courses as well. He's been really good at this street course in particular, winning it last season, podium in 2022. I think he gets that done again this week. So give me Carlos Sainz with the podium finish at plus 120 from our friends over on BetUS.
Yeah, the thing about it too is that I was all over the 2 drivers that I wanted to put in the dock. Cody got in the dock already, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna let him out. No, and for all the points you made,
I saw what I needed to see last week out of both these guys.
I mean, and with Carlos Sainz and his track history here, I can't argue with you on that because I think this is going to be another highly competitive race where, I mean, look, we haven't even talked about, and we're neither one of us are going to really talk about McLaren. Both of those guys, the numbers are why we're not talking about McLaren. We do not think for 1 second that Lando or Piastri are not going to factor into this race. And I almost took Piastri outright, but plus 350 is still not enough for me to want to.
I know, and that's like, it's so funny because we had him at 5-1 last week, right? And then all the stuff came out after we recorded the show, and it's like, oh, he's going to play second fiddle, and he's going to be the good teammate. He's going to let Lando have, and everybody's like, oh, you can't touch Oscar, and then Lando's nowhere to be found, and Oscar just runs away with everything and destroys everyone, right? Which is funny, but you do have to think going forward, there's going to be situations he's put in where he's going to have to cede that to Lando. While if Lando still has any chance of winning it, they're going to have to keep giving that to Lando and giving him that opportunity. So I think that will come into play, and it just makes it tough because, like we talked about, so many different people can win. And again, we talk about this a lot on NASCAR. It's not because we don't like someone or we don't think someone's going to be good. McLaren should probably be 1-2. They should probably win and finish this race in second. And maybe you just go bet them at minus 120 for the team to win. I did actually look at that one as well. But sometimes the numbers just don't make sense, and that's why you don't go that way. But yeah.
Indeed. Speaking of numbers making sense, how about a guy who, I'm sorry, I would like to apologize to Mr. Colapinto because I did not expect young Franco Colapinto to actually come out and do as well as he did. I thought Ocon would do better. I think I actually said that, Colapinto probably would finish somewhere in the range of the top 15, but not better than Ocon. Well, guess what? He finished inside of the points for his first street race there at Baku, finished 8th place. Granted, he finished 8th place because of the two cars that knocked themselves out. However, I will say you put those two places back in, it's still a points finish for young Franco Colapinto. But also a 12th place finish in Monza. Two tough tracks, right? And this Williams car, nay, the Williams team last week actually looked like a pretty decent team. Albon really running well as well. 7th and 8th for those two guys. Points finishes for, I don't know. I mean, we talk about Williams being one of the weaker teams and we joke with them and kick Sauber, but they actually look like a very solid team this week, finishing 7th and 8th at Baku. So I'm going to run it back. I think Colapinto can get another points finish here, plus 225 for this. We talked about Max's struggles on this race. Not to say that he's not going to finish outside of the points, but if Max struggles at this race, then all kinds of other people struggle at this race. And look, Colapinto looks like he's actually fitting in quite nicely and has done well for himself. He's staying out of trouble, right? Which is something you expect out of, or you don't expect out of young drivers. But he's playing nice with other guys. They're giving him a little bit of leeway. He managed to find his way into a points finish just on sheer speed alone and through talent. So I think we can do it again. I think another 10th place finish for him is there. Because again, look at Sauber, right? You look at them, they're running so poorly right now. However, they actually did pretty good for themselves. They didn't finish dead last. It was actually
attrition.
They didn't. But even still, Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda both kind of crashed out of this one. And look, I expect some other folks to not make it to the end of this race. So I think again, a 10th place finish for Colapinto is not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, no arguments from me here. I mean, we just saw it from him last week. We've seen this Haas team. I mean, we've talked about them all season, and in my articles, they've been a team that I've hit on a lot as far as a team that's consistently in that range for getting points. He showed us he could do it last week, and I think that he could definitely get it done again this week, Rod. So yeah, no arguments from me on there.
Beautiful stuff. Although Colapinto, Williams, you're thinking, see, you thought Behrman that cast your bet on Haas last.
Yeah.
You were like,
oh yeah,
you got eyes for Behrman, and that's fine. That's fine. Everybody does.
Boy, just Behrman, he made me so
Don't you
happy
wish he was back this week?
But yeah, I do wish he was actually. Sorry, Magnuson, but I do wish he was back this week because I would be betting on him again. So yeah, forget everything I just said. And yeah, Colapinto, but Williams, we've talked about Albon multiple times this season too, and obviously Logan Sargent was the fucking problem here. Like, look at the difference in this car with a new driver. holy shit, buddy. I love that we had an American in F1, but he did not look good for us. So, yeah. But, no, yeah. To everything you said, I agree. And to my Haas points, go look at the Haas guys. Maybe bet on them. I don't know.
Still, might as well. I mean, shoot, man. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Come back with more bets. But first, we've already formally introduced you, but let's formally reintroduce you to BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS with the best in the business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can bet anywhere. BetUS is available in a ton of locations, including internationally. Plus, BetUS just launched an all-new live betting experience. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. We're already telling you all of our favorite BetUS bets. We got a couple more coming up as well. Use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. We are also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Rhythm AI had a great NFL week 2, 22.5 ROI on NFL spread bets and a 44.3 ROI on NFL money line bets. You can build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Used Rhythm the other day to build a model to help me figure out what Tyler Algier was going to do as far as rushing is concerned. His line was set at 22.5. Led me toward the over. Guess what? He crushed that in like 2 drives. It was amazing. Rhythm helped me get there. It'll help you get where you need to go too. So claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
All right, Rod, BetUS once again hooking us up with the best line for the Pierre Gasly points finish. That's where I am going next. Pierre Gasly plus 550 over on BetUS for the points finish. He's been pretty good at this track these last 2 seasons. 6th place last year in the Alpine, and then 10th in 2022 for that V-Carb team. But still, 2 podium, or not podium, boy, that'd be nice. 2 points finishes for Gasly over the last 2 seasons. 12th place last week, which skewed a bit, right? That means basically he was running in 14th, so not super close, but did score points a couple of weeks ago at the Dutch Grand Prix. And over the last, we talked early in the season about how slow Alpine started, and they just look like Kick Sauber does now. But they looked bad, right? Everybody quit. They're like, fuck this. We don't want to be associated with this team. Left, but they figured it out over the last 10 races. Half the time, 5 of the last 10 Grand Prix, Gasly has been inside of the points at the end of the day. Plus 550, a very big number for a guy who's kind of done the last 2 seasons in a row on this track and half of the time over the last 10 races of this season. So love that for Gasly. And then, Rod, I just tossed this one onto the sheet, but I want to run it back. Valtteri Bottas, last classified finisher at 4-1. Going to do it again. Kick Sauber is absolutely fucking horrible. Should have cashed one of those 2 guys last week, but fucking the Canadian guy, I can't even think of his fucking name now. Stroll, yes. He I don't even know what was going on, but he had all sorts of issues and problems, and his day was plagued with them, but yet made it far enough to be classified, even though he didn't finish the race, which was unfortunate. And then obviously you end up with the last lap incident of Sainz and Perez, which finished behind them, even though they were ahead of them the entire day. So, but the point being, these Kick Sauber cars are still fucking slow. They look ridiculous, and they are easily the worst teams out there. And I think that they're going to be the last 2 guys, most likely, that are classified on the day. Again, this protects you from somebody that wrecks out before 90% into the race. You're fine. That doesn't matter. That's not a big deal. As long as you don't have that Stroll that has a problem or the crazy wild last lap incident like we had this last week. I think that it's going to be between Joe, who's again minus 120, which if you want to pay for it, I don't hate it, but I'm just going to take the longer shot each time. It's Bottas at 4-1 again, like he was last week. Going to run that bet back because that team is just absolute shit right now.
I envision somebody walking up to either one of those guys and trying to rip off the face, and it's like Logan Sargent right there, kind of like Scooby-Doo-esque, where they reach out and they're like, Logan Sargent, it was you all along.
It was you all along.
Now would have
got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids.
We kid, yes. Guys. You can still drive circles around me.
Nobody's letting Logan Sargent near an F1 car. Don't worry.
No. All right. Speaking of carnage and finishing and people not finishing, there's the number of classified finishers. I'm going to take the line. Caesars has this kind of tiered, right? They've got, you can go as low as you feel comfortable. I feel more comfortable at 17 and a half classified finishers at plus 125. And I say that because 3 of the last 3 races have had 17 or fewer classified finishers in this race. In fact, last year in this 2023 Singapore Grand Prix, 5 cars did not finish this, thereby leaving 15 classified drivers. The year before that, 6 cars did not finish this race, thereby leaving 14 classified drivers. In 2019, 3 cars crashed out of this race, leaving 17 classified drivers because Kimi Räikkönen did not. He did 49 laps, which is still not 90%. I had to do some quick math, but yeah, definitely not qualified for that one. So 3 out of 3 for under 17 and a half. However, if you're ballsy, if you feel like this is going to be, and look, this season has not necessarily been a very physical season. We haven't seen a lot of retirements this year, which is kind of leads you to why it doesn't feel right. At the same time, this course in particular has a lot of gremlins that could jump out and get you. There's some corners that'll beat you down on that. So if you feel froggy and if you feel like plus 350 is a big enough number for you to take the 16 and a half, take the under on that one as well. So my official pick is under 17 and a half classified finishers on this one at plus 125 on Caesars, but I will not shame you if you go for the 16 and a half at plus 350. It's one driver, you can split it the way you want and hope for the best. Cause if you hit the 16 and a half, you won't be sad, or you'll double down on the 17 and a half. But yeah, it's I just feel like this is a race where they've been polite a little too long, and they're going to get a little testy, as Carlos Sainz and Checho can attest to.
Yeah, and if that testiness comes a little earlier, then you're going to end up hitting this. I like it. Weather could be a factor too. We generally don't like the weather; can just change so much. But we're a little closer to race week day than we are, this week than we are a lot of weeks. But 80% chance for storms Saturday night, but Sunday morning. Still a 40% chance and scattered thunderstorms likely in the morning. So could be some weather that gets mixed into this and creates more chaos. And we know how that can go, especially on a close, tight street circuit. So I like the underclassified finisher car lift that Rod's breaking out over here. It's beautiful. All right, Rod, you ready for some winners?
I'm ready to be for you to pick some winners.
All right, Rod, I'm going to pick some winners. Carlos Sainz, 7-1 over on BetUS. Absolutely love that. And then Checo Perez, 35-1 over on the DraftKings. Great numbers on both of these guys. I've already talked both of them up already, made the case for both of them to get on the podium. Why couldn't they win is kind of my argument at the numbers. Should McLaren be the best team, and should both of those guys be really good? Yes, absolutely. But look what happened to Lando last week. Should Ferrari be good? Well, Sainz is one of the Ferraris, so that's nice, right? But we've seen Ferraris qualified really well, especially on the street courses. Leclerc has been done really extremely well qualifying on there. And we saw Sainz in the mix at least last week. For Checo, we saw him outperform Lando last week. We saw both of these guys outperform the Mercedes cars. Again, I think that while they're different circuits, it's 2 street courses back to back. You can translate a lot from one street circuit to the next street circuit and kind of carry it over. Both of these guys were just in the mix. They weren't necessarily either going to win this race, right? They weren't necessarily in contention to win, but they were in the mix in the top 3, 4 at the end of the day on the last fucking lap. But it had that opportunity, right? And at 7-1, at 35-1 for the street course king, Rod. What are we doing here? Yeah, so I like both these guys outright. So we sort of talked earlier about, man, pick your poison at the top, right? If you want to bet on Oscar, Preston, I know you probably want to bet on Lando, do it, right? It's not a bad bet to bet on them, but it's just the numbers are shorter. It makes it tougher. I like just kind of taking a couple longer shots, especially when we've seen now, Rod, week to week, we can get different winners. McLaren won this time, but it was Ferrari last time. Mercedes has won lately. It's been a while since Red Bull's won, but it's like we really do truly are where 8 different guys could win any given week. And that gives us the opportunity to bet on these longer shot outrights, and they really have a good shot. And Sainz did it last year when Max was probably minus 400 going into this race. So now you're getting them a plus 700. I like it.
So full disclosure, I like them both too. These were both of my picks, but I did not get in there. So especially the Checo one. Listen, that was the one that I'm glad you picked him anyways, because that was going to be the 35-1 should not be it for the guy that was a breath away from a podium. And I mean, honestly, if we had 2 more laps in that one, who knows?
And what if he's on the podium? And what if instead of him and Sainz getting into it, what if that's Max and Lando? We haven't seen that already this year. What if that, or in this case, it would have been Oscar and Charles, right? What if those 2 guys get together and open the door and maybe he's there? I don't care how it hits. I just want it to hit. And I think that the number, he can put himself in the right position. Maybe they end up playing the pit strategy. Like pit strategy has been almost everything lately in these last handful of races. Like it's really mattered a lot. If they can play it correctly, I don't care how he gets there, but he's going to have a fast car. He's a great driver. He's probably the best driver on street courses. Really good. So I love it.
I do too. And so since you took both of mine, I'm just going to sprinkle out Lewis Hamilton 16-1. I talked about it already. The guy's got 4 wins on this track, 7 podiums in 14 starts. It only makes sense that I know that it hasn't been going well for him and for Mercedes in general, other than last week where Russell kind of lucked his way onto a podium, which he'll take it. He doesn't care. And nobody else really cares in Mercedes how it happens. But, you know, they've been giving Lewis fast cars still. It doesn't matter that he's a lame duck. They've been giving him and George both fast cars. Mercedes has taken advantage. Like you said, Cody, Ferrari, Mercedes, they're all sort of just still hanging around, trying to get the scraps off of Red Bull. So a good finish for both of these Mercedes cars will kind of make up some ground on both of those teams. And look, we're not out of the woods yet for a lot of folks and their pride, especially. So Lewis has already won a couple of races this season. I think he could do it again. 16-1 is a huge number for a guy that's won 4 races. And literally, I mean, 2018, it feels like a long time ago, but that was only 4 races ago, you know, because of the fact that we didn't have races a couple of years. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth, but I do think Lewis at 16-1 is a fantastic price. Even though, you know, I still think this is Checo's race to win.
Yeah. And like this, again, there's 8 guys that could win. Here's 3 longer shots for you. All you need is one of those guys to do it. And it's definitely possible. You know how much I love Lewis, and he can get it done each and every single week. We've seen Mercedes still hanging. They're like a little bit back, but they're still right there. Like Russell, right place, right time, ends up on the podium last week. And we know Lewis is Lewis. He can get it done at any given time. So, yeah, I like it. I think it's a well-rounded card, Rob.
I believe so as well. So get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over this well-rounded card for you. Cody started you off with Checo to be on the podium. That is Sergio Perez at 12-1. Also tossed in the top 6 at -110 for Perez. I said that Lewis would be on the podium at 4-1 over on BetUS. Cody said that Carlos Sainz would be on the podium at +120 at BetUS. I gave Franco Colapinto his 2nd career points finish in the Formula One circuit at +225 in that Williams machine. Cody said Pierre Gasly would be a points finisher at +550 on BetUS. And Valtteri Bottas, the last qualified driver, at 4-1. Also, I said take the under on the classified finishers at 17.5 at +125. But if you feel brave, take the under at 16.5 at +350 as well. Then Cody said Carlos Sainz at 7-1, Checo Perez at 35-1 would be the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix. Whereas I said yes to both of those and also tossed in Lewis Hamilton at the right price of 16-1 to win this race. All right, Cody, nothing's left now but to go watch practice.
That's right. Yeah, it's coming up soon since we're doing this later in the week. We're not very far away from the beginning of the weekend. Should be a fun one. I think we don't have a race for like 3 weeks before they head back to the U.S., which will be nice. Always good to see them come this direction, of course. And of course, that will be that's the Coda race, right?
Yeah, I believe that is. Right?
Yeah. So, yes, very, very excited for that. It's not going to be until, October 20th. So it's like a month.
Almost a full month away. Holy Jesus.
Yeah. We'll be back with some stuff in between to some filler stuff for sure. So we'll be back. We'll see you again. But good luck this weekend, and let's go make some money.
Let's go make some money. Cody, as we send everybody off, let everyone know where they can find you outside of this world.
Follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. And again, subscribe over on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube page if you want to watch this show.
Yes, sir. And thanks for listening to all of you who listen on the traditional podcast. And yeah, like Cody said, make sure to subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast to catch this as well. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. There's a link in the bio, everything I got going on. And we'll be back again. We'll recap the last few races for you guys and talk stuff next week. But we'll be back then. Good luck, everybody. Have some fun watching F1 this weekend. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.